What's up, everybody? This is your boy Kanai, and of course, this is the Sanford fucking podcast. Hope everybody's in good spirits. I hope everybody's enjoying their fucking summer so far. But I don't want to hold you up any further. I have a dope ass guest coming up. Met her at the International African Arts Festival. She had she went over. She was performing with her crew, Belenz and Kapar. I forgot his name. I'm sorry. I might if I mispronounce your name. Sorry, fam. You know what I mean? No offense. But other than that, Robin, also known as BeThePoet, this is who we ended up having on the show today. And, but yeah, anything you need to know about her will definitely be in the show notes below. If you want to go ahead and leave your input and let us know if you think there's a part 2 that's necessary to this episode, you go ahead and let us know. You can do that at thesanfordpodcast.com, or you can go ahead and email us at thesanfordpodcast@gmail.com, or hit us on that Instagram or that Twitter at Sanford Podcast. But I don't want to hold you up any further. Like I said before, let's go ahead and get into this dope ass interview. This is the Sanford Podcast featuring BeThePoet. Let's get it.
Hey guys, you are now tuned in into the Sanford Podcast for the culture. So I need you to stop scrolling, open up your eye, and tune in.
Like, is this something you do pro bono? Because you got a rather professional card for something you do pro bono.
Nah, no pro bono. No pro bono at all. But, let me see something. I'm trying to look something up because I was listening to something earlier. Definitely want to share it at this very moment. I think it's very necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Word.
And you expect me to be impervious and not bleed? You ain't the only one that had everything from your name change to your creed. I've always thought of us as we. Our pain, our strain, our fight, our flight. Our sacrifice to live life right. Since when did the struggle for black people only apply to the men? As if both our daughters and our sons can't be raped by the pen. Oh, I see. You still trying to be your oppressor. Thinking if you replicate his thinking, you'll be better. Which includes his thoughts of treating its women lesser. And that we, black folks, don't experience pain. A false ignorance worn in vain. Replicate, retaliate, revenge, it's all the same in this case. What hurts the most is that I still love you, brother. A non-African belief system in a dark chocolate face. Honey, blackness has always been more than just skin. So I'm gonna need you to look for the blackness within. Right. And recognize that my pain is not only here to help you with yours. Sympathizing means I also wear these scars. And for the ones on my back, I need another to apply the sap. And so do you. And I'm not just talking about some novice that read it in a book or saw it on TV or MTV or BET or whatever. I'm talking about somebody that knows the feeling of fingers grazed against the scab. So they know what they're doing so it doesn't hurt that bad. Dating black ain't the same thing as being black. Brother, I want you back. And I'm not just talking about your body. Nah, just talking about your body. It look good though. I love y'all dark chocolate. I love y'all caramel chocolate. All kinds of chocolate in between. But I'm not just...
So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and stop right there. This is Kanai. This is the Sanford Podcast for the Culture. This is a community of thinkers, doers, creatives, and entrepreneurs. I'm here with a special guest. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, what's going on, everybody listening to the Sanford Project? My name is Robin Baxter, but today I'm here as BeThePoet.
This definitely is a project. This definitely is the project. But thank you. But so let's go ahead and get into this episode. I have lined up for us today. So B, the other day you had sent me your bio, and I was reading through it, and it's very, very, very a lot of good things that you're doing. A lot of good things. For instance, like you do paint and sips, right? You do paint and sips, right? You like to do live paintings. Now, how did you get into live paintings?
I've actually been painting and drawing longer than I've been doing spoken word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is actually, art is my first craft. I've been creative since a kid. Officially did my first painting with actual paint versus just, pencil and other hand drawing materials. I officially did my first painting when I was 13. And that's also where my educational background is. Like, I have a bachelor's degree in fine arts. I got an associate's degree in fine arts concentration in painting from FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology here in New York. And then I got the bachelor's degree, did the last 2 years at Hunter College. Still painting as my concentration.
And how's it over the years? How have you feel like you've evolved as, I don't know, you want to identify yourself in the realm of when it comes to painting, do you want to identify yourself just still as a painter or an artist? But how did you evolve as an artist, through painting? So like over the years, how has it transformed on canvas, and how has it transformed you?
What's the best way I can say it? So art was always my voice. It was always about self-expression. It was always a way to communicate things that I couldn't necessarily communicate. I always, how do I say it? Okay, because I've always drawn and I've always been writing. I probably started writing poetry around 11, even though the visual art came before then. I didn't decide to take poetry as a career until around 2009. Right? So I've been doing it for a while now. But I was always that back of the notebook writer. I journaled a lot. So I would, journal a lot. So it was always between like the writing and the painting at the same time. Whether it was, anime characters. I used to make up my own characters as a kid. Started doing my own comic lines and stuff of that nature. I'm trying to think. You know what? Can you explain that question a little bit more? I'm not really sure. Like, what do you mean?
I mean, like, what kind of transformation have you noticed in terms of like, okay, I've, for instance, for instance, like I like to write, and because I like to write, I notice that as I tend to write, I notice that I start to realize different things about me through my imagination.
Okay.
Things I would like, whoa, I never thought I would be into this, or I never thought I'd be. For instance, like I'm a big reader, so when I read, I get a lot of ideas, and when I get a lot of ideas, I feel like, because I'm a person of color, and I know that my people is very multi-talented, I try to see and incorporate that theme of me being a person of color and what I'm reading in fantasy, and bringing into relation to see how much truth there is in between that gray space.
Right. I think there's something different that happens when you're painting. Because unlike, when you're writing, you're going through a different type of thought process, even though both of them can be creative outlets, and both of them can be outlets, things that you're letting out. Really, the only big thing that comes to mind anyway when I'm painting is when I've done something and it's something that I have not accomplished to this degree before. It was like, oh wow, I did that. yup, I did that. It was like, what? I did that? I didn't know I could do that. Oh, snap.
Right.
That usually, I've had that moment a couple of times, painting like, ooh. And that's the thing. It also, when I'm painting, I have like a skeleton structure of what I want, but a lot of it kind of just comes out in the process. I'm a concept painter, and I like to have the process of the work in the finished product. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting for me. That's always something that's there. And you know what? And I guess that also is a reflection of my ideology on life. I think the journey sometimes is more important than the destination or even a start point. And that also tends to be the things that I write about as well. People ask me, well, what do you write about? And I say I write about the human experience. And I say I write about the experience because that experience is the space in between. A lot of times you hear about people say, when I was nothing, coming from the bottom, now we're here. You know, you talking about when we here already, but what about the little nuances that happened in between?
Right.
That weren't sexy, that nobody, that when you didn't know if you was going to get up there yet. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that I tend to write about, those little cross corners.
Right.
Because I think those are probably like the blueprints. Like we always tell people, like we're talking about, like when you start to get into like community activism or just anything you're trying to teach anybody anywhere, people always tend to tell you what to do. How is never really laid out. And to a degree, you can't lay out all of the how. You know, life has variables.
Right.
That's what it is. But a lot of times, I think I was having a conversation with somebody about this earlier. You know, application of what it is that you know, doing things in real time. So that how, those little nuances in between. I think that's a part of our storytelling that we have really lost, that probably needs to come back. We used to call it home training. It's not just home training, it was life training. That was also a part of our cultural education. And I don't know, maybe we took it for granted. I'm not sure if we took it for granted or if it just got taken from us. I'm really not sure. I think this is my random theory about it. I think it was so embedded into everything that we did not realize, and by we, I'm talking about, black people, black culture, people of the African diaspora. I think it was so embedded into our everyday lives and our everyday thing that we didn't realize it was a thing.
Right.
Now that it's kind of something, now that there's that feeling of absence, now I think we're recognizing that it's a thing, and we're starting to do things, other things, quotation marks, to recreate it.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. But it's like, no, that's the answer that was supposed to be spoken. So, yeah. But other than that, right? I was also looking, and I was like, what are art therapy sessions? Well, what exactly is that about?
Well, recently I got a certificate as a mental health aide. So be it that I had that, I said, first thing I thought of was I'm going to start doing art therapy sessions.
Okay.
So with a lot of the work that I've been doing with the street festivals and, a new art project coming up, a new exhibition that I'm getting ready for, I haven't really gotten to dig into the art therapy sessions. But art in itself, the actual process of creating, that's therapy in and of itself.
Right.
One of my old teachers used to say art is life. And it's funny enough that, like, when I start to get into art and I'm starting to, explain it to other people about how you do this and that and third, it's very true. Art is life. Art is life.
Right.
Like, literally, art is life. How can I say it? Like, for instance, when I did a paint and sip under the company Fuji.
Right.
Fuji's a black-owned paint company. She invented her own paint. It's totally vegan. That was the paint that you actually saw me painting live with at the African Arts Festival. Right. So I'm working with Fuji as an art ambassador to show people that hey, this paint is not just for body paint; it's also for canvas as well. So she had me, dope. Yeah. So she had me, do her daddy and me paint and sip. So, and as I'm going through the different processes with them, nobody in that room had painted prior to that day. No one, adults and kids, no one. Those paintings came out so good. I was so proud of my class. I was like, look at my I was so excited. So it's like, as I'm, sitting there explaining it to them, I'm like, I'm telling them, it's like, hey, you can kind of leave this stroke here, do this a stroke here. I'm not being too specific about what it is that they have to do. I'm kind of giving them general ideas about how to paint, but I'm like, but you can choose your own colors. Right? You can choose this own color, and then after they would kind of make their own decisions. Okay, well, maybe use a different color for this line. Okay, you've been using this paint. Wait, we'll try this different kind of combination. I'm really just kind of giving them a little bit of assistance. So it's like, it ends up kind of mirroring a lot of the things that we do, a lot of the, how do I say? It ends up like mirroring a lot of the little things that we say to people, as far as, or even, say to our kids sometimes about, how you deal with life.
Right.
I find myself repeating a lot of these different things while I'm in there. Like, for instance, learn how to work with your mistakes. Learn how to work with your mistakes. In the sense you almost say, there's no such thing as mistakes. You just learn how to make them pretty. That's all you do. That's all you do. So it's like, and then you just kind of keep going with it.
Right. Right. So, who in your childhood or who in your young adulthood life, who inspired you to get into poetry? How did that come about?
How did poetry come about exactly?
How did you cross paths with poetry?
Like I said, I was a back of the notebook writer.
Okay.
I was a back of the notebook writer, 5-subject notebook. Always would use the last one just to write. But initially, I wasn't writing poems. I was writing rhymes. Yeah.
Okay.
I started out writing rhymes, and it was like, as I continued, just to write at some point, and I would also just write songs, even though I couldn't necessarily sing, but I would just write songs, period. Right. And after a while, I would have some things in my head that I.
You know what? Your whole approach, right? Your whole approach at the art festival, International African Arts Festival. You seemed like you were mirroring. I don't know if it seemed like it was, but it's like you gave off like an MC Light impression a little bit. You had this like whole MC like, I don't know, like approach or presentation, that whole aura. Cause that's a compliment. Thank you. That's like, it's because that's the energy that was like given off, because she was a force. She was her own single force, and she stood her ground, and she bust her shit on the mic.
No, and was one of the first.
Right.
And was one of the first. Now, I have not really dug in and like really just went on my MC Light binge.
Right.
To really know exactly what her whole presence and everything was about. Definitely familiar with her work and whatnot. But it's like, I haven't gone on my bench to really study and say like, yeah, this is what that ear is about. This is what that ear. I know what that era was about.
Right.
I know what that era was about, but it's like, it's different to kind of dive in and know what that ear is about.
Right. It was a different frequency though.
Oh, it was definitely a different frequency, but she was still one of the few female chicks doing it.
Right.
Period. And it's like, nowadays, if you're female and you're doing any type of hip hop, it's like, it's damn near like a gang.
Right.
There's two ways you get into a gang. You either getting jumped in, which means you got to be a dude, or somebody is sexing you in, which means you basically got to slut yourself out on stage. Right. And that's what you see a lot of them doing in their own rhymes. So you might as well just be a chick saying a lot of these dudes' rhymes, and it's like,
the era in hip hop that we're in right now is just like, it's so much like, there's just so much like, I'm gonna speak on, it's just like very low vibrational
so
stuff
I like to redefine things, or rather I like to be specific about what I refer to as what.
Right.
There is a big difference between hip hop artists and industry artists.
I would say hip hop and rap artists, to be honest with you.
I mean, people use the word rap too, but I think we need to be more specific to industry artists, because it's not necessarily just rap.
Okay.
And funny enough, even the history of the word rap, because I like 70s movies.
But you know what? I think, now that you say that, and maybe we can, because I feel like these terms or these categories have not really been looked into enough, and then there has been like a final agreement as to, okay, we're gonna look at it like this, we're gonna look at this like this, and we're gonna look at this like this. There has not been no agreement. But now
who's we? And
we the culture. Culture. We talking about the people.
Right, but this is why I make that. That's why I make that statement.
Right.
Because when you're talking about who created these genres and music and defined this as what, that is the industry did that. So there was a body of we that made that decision and put it in that direction, but it just was not us. And that's why I kind of also goes back to why I said there's a difference between hip hop artists, because hip hop initially started out as a culture, and then as a result, the music transformed from it, and then industry artists.
Let me ask you something. So you don't feel like the culture was hijacked?
Of course I do.
All right then. So it's like, I don't think nothing was handed over on like a silver platter, but for the most part, it's just like it's been hijacked. The culture vultures is like knee deep into all the mess. But anyway, they're profiting off. This is why
energy. This is why they are in. There's a difference between hip hop and industry artists, because with industry, they don't care necessarily about the culture itself. It's just, how can I take it and make money off of it? You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of the industry artists that fall into the game and they fall into those gimmicks.
Hold on.
They choose that.
I got a good example for you. And I'm gonna tell. Remember how I tried to tell you 3 categories, right? Industry, hip hop, and rap. Mm-hmm. Okay, mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you prime examples of who's who. Okay, my opinion.
Okay,
and I'm gonna call it a spade, despite that, lyrically, whatever the case may be, we're gonna call it what it is. Okay, mm-hmm. Drake is industry. Mm-hmm. Okay, Meek Mill is hip hop. Mm-hmm. Okay, Jadakiss is rap.
Ooh, okay,
that's real shit. Real shit.
Strong names. I love me some Kiss, dude.
Kiss talks to the people, though.
Kiss talks to the people. What you mean? Let me tell you something about their whole set. Rough
Riders
has always taken care of their people. Always. They are probably some of the most underrepresented hip hop artists, period. And it's like, the only reason I guess I would say I would call rap rather, what do you call the alter ego of hip hop? Mm-hmm. I would even say I would call rap the alter ego in hip hop, because it's a little harder.
Right.
That's it. But I would still put Kiss into hip hop, because when you understand what it is, it wasn't always this happy-go-lucky experience.
Now I'm gonna tell you why my categories are my categories, because I didn't give you a full breakdown of it just yet. So the reason I say industry is like people who are like really just like
it's palpable.
No, it's like people who really work for the freaking label, like and they're comfortable with that position. Right. Like, they don't care. Like, you want me to rap about this? Okay, boom, I'm gonna rap about that.
Even if the music's not that great.
That's industry. Hip hop is like, they have industry, but they still have street. So they still got that connection with the street a little bit. They like in between both worlds.
They're professional. Mm-hmm. We're not industry. I would call them professional.
That's hip hop.
I know my business.
Jadakiss, rap. He's in this. Oh, and just speaking of which, hold on. Speaking of Jadakiss, he just signed to Rock Nation. Congratulations to fucking Jadakiss. He signed to Rock Nation.
Really?
He just signed just recently.
What kind of deal?
Like within the last 2 years.
What, like just distribution or what?
2 months. No, like 2 days. Like past 2 days. Yeah, it just happened. He signed to Rock Nation.
He not with Rough Riders no more.
He's with Jay. Rock Nation is Jay. That's Rihanna. That's Jeezy.
I know who it is, but
that's the heavy hitters. Fab. That's all of them. He's with the team now. Whatever, however people want to describe that team, because people got their own little perspective about Rock Nation because Jay and their theories about him. But I respect grind. And that man grinds.
I mean, it's a whole bunch of people that grind. Some people, the culture vultures, they grind and still our culture too.
Exactly.
Grind got a whole lot of names.
Grind is neutral.
And this is why I asked,
grind is neutral.
No, grind is a tool.
Right.
It's a tool, but how you choose to use the tool is a whole nother ball of wax.
Just like whatever their God is. God grinds, the devil grinds.
But this is what I'm saying. A thief is grinding too. That doesn't necessarily mean I respect a thief.
True, but he's on his grind. The hustle is still the hustle. That's why I say the grind, the hustle is neutral. because it benefits both sides, regardless.
I wouldn't
It's like magic in a sense. I don't mean to get Final Fantasy on people and shit like that, but check this out. It's just like magic. Magic is neutral. People who understand the magic can manipulate their magic, and whatever their intentions are is how they will be judged when that time comes.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry I got a little deep on that. But yeah, but this is but yeah, man, it's some very good things going on. There's a lot of good things going on, and still a lot of fuck shit going on. Still a lot of fuck shit. I'm gonna tell you the kind of fuck shit that's going on right now in the world.
Oh Lord.
And then we're gonna get right back into your bio.
For the record, I do not keep up with popular culture because of this. It's like I need to. Can I focus on
this?
My
Is
own
messed up.
shit?
Grandmother who used an oxygen tank to breathe dies after power company cuts the electricity from her Newark home.
Wow. You're kidding me.
No, Linda Daniels.
What's the date? What's the date?
This happened. She died on Thursday. Yeah, just a few days ago.
You said New York.
She was relying on the oxygen tank, but the electrical company's like, nah.
You said New
And
York?
Newark, Jersey.
Newark.
Yeah, Newark, Jersey.
That's despicable.
That's very crazy. Now, I want to see. I'm very curious to see what's gonna be the response on that. I think I may actually look into that situation.
Wow. And
further.
what's happening with her family? Like, who are her surviving relatives?
The surviving relatives is her daughter Desiree is with her still to this day. Like, they still got her back. But they were there for her, but they was like, I guess everybody was in a tough position financially.
No, but I'm just saying, period. Was she living by herself? Was her kids living with her?
The kids was living with her.
How old are the oldest children?
Nah, they didn't go into them kind of details.
But
right.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, what is the response from the surviving family?
Right.
They
only just gonna report the tragedy and just leave it at that.
So we haven't heard anything from
or it just hasn't been
her grandkids, brothers, sisters.
It's probably out there, but the source ain't out there yet.
How old was she when she passed?
68.
68.
Relying on her oxygen tank.
68. So yeah, that means her children are adults. Were they living? And we don't know nothing about the family.
I think it was like 2 of her daughters living with her.
2 of the daughters living with her?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Sad and
did they
up.
know? Does it say? And it says nothing about the other family members, what they've been saying or not saying, and nothing.
The other family members is like when you get, like, for instance, like when you read something, like I started looking into the matter more, and there's like not too much information about it, because now this is like we're talking about electrical company. This is pretty big right now, so
that's insane.
It's like
no, I haven't heard. That's why first thing I'm asking. That's the first thing I'm asking. Like, what are the family members saying? What are they actually actively doing? And that's insane. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's really crazy. That's really crazy.
Very sensitive situation.
It's borderline. It's manslaughter, to be honest. Like, if we talking about calling a spade, that is manslaughter.
Spade's a spade.
Wasn't voluntary, but it definitely was manslaughter. They probably paid them babies off, or trying to. I hope they don't.
Because that's a very, very, very interesting situation, and that should definitely go to civil court, or even criminal too. But see, I'm not even too sure if that whole situation won't even work out anyway, to be honest with you. But
that's wild.
Speaking of which, they said this guy's still on parole too, even after everything he's been through. Meek Mill, the one who was Mr. Hip Hop. But he's still, like, even though his whole situation when he got they let him out early because they found out, they start looking into this matter, find out there was some foul stuff going on in concerns of his case and the details and dynamics of it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
There was a lot of crazy stuff, like some crooked stuff. There was a crooked cop that was dealing with his case, and they found out now.
Of course.
but the judge was still trying to do some funny stuff. It was some funny mess going on.
I'm honestly not surprised. I'm really not surprised. But like I said, I don't really keep up with a lot of the popular culture, so I don't even know what he went to jail for, to be honest.
Right.
I don't keep up with a lot of the popular culture stuff just because I'm like, all right, I can sit there and follow somebody else's life, or I can be carving up a path of my own. And on the real, a lot of the music that I listen to is not industry or mainstream music.
Right.
You know, it'll be commercial value, which is not the same. Mainstream just is talking about media output. Commercial value is talking about, you know, how much it actually is worth. Right. You know, and we always know that not everything that is worth a lot is known by everyone. That's all it means. Mainstream just means it's known by everybody. Music, it could be trash. It could be a crap quality product or service. But if it's in the mainstream, everybody and their mother know about it, right? So the last real album that I've been listening to is actually they should have performed at the International African Arts Festival, Soul Science Lab.
Science Lab.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Yeah, they did. They performed under Asante Amin and Sankofa Soul's set, I want to say. Right? So the last album they dropped was called Plan for Paradise.
Right.
That's a dope album. I've been sitting there listening to it over and over again, and it dropped 2017. It dropped like fall 2017, so almost a year now in a couple months. But yeah, Soul Science Lab is a hip hop duo with Asante Amin, and he from New Orleans. You know, I know him by Teddy. You know, because before he changed his name to Asante Amin, it's like, all right, what's up, Teddy? You know, so, but officially Asante Amin and Chen Lo. Chen Lo is from Brooklyn, by way of Ghana. Yeah, they be on, but they on. Let me tell you, and it's like Teddy plays. He was the one on stage playing the saxophone. When you saw the band that was up there, he was the one playing the saxophone, and they do this show called Soundtrack 63. Which is an amazing. It's I don't even know how to describe it. It's you have a combination of visuals that are going with this orchestra set, which also it also has like live performers, singers, hip hop artists, and they just out flexing.
Have you ever heard of a place called the Blue Note?
The Blue Note. That's a jazz spot downtown.
I heard, yeah. I heard somebody at the festival talking about it, and I'm like,
the Blue Note is one of the biggest jazz spots in New York. Period.
Yeah, no, I've never been to a jazz club though. So, yeah.
You've heard live music though played before, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But I just never like been to a jazz club.
Like a flat out jazz club. Yeah. I don't really go to a lot of jazz clubs. Rather than I'd go to a lot of live music sets and listen to jazz. I do listen to a lot of jazz. I listen to everything but heavy metal and punk. I listen to punk, heavy metal and country.
You listen to heavy metal, country?
No, those are the two genres I don't listen to.
Oh, you don't?
I listen to everything else but heavy metal and country. I can't do the yodeling when it comes to country. That joint, it'll drive me crazy.
Believe it or not, I actually started getting into lo-fi.
Lo-fi hip hop?
I like lo-fi.
Okay.
It's pretty different. I like it. And then I'm like, once in a while, I play around with a little bit of tech, soft tech though, a little bit. It's nothing too buzzing in the head too much. But
I love Afro house, and there's like a new genre that's starting to emerge called Afro electronic.
Okay.
Afro electronic, and really, cause I follow a DJ. His name is Expect, but capital XPECT, and he's from Nairobi, but he's in New York. He lives in New York.
He's on SoundCloud.
He's on SoundCloud.
Okay.
He's on SoundCloud, and it's like his music is off the chain, dude. He housed Bad and Bougie. I was like, what? I went to go listen to him spin. Where was we at? It was Casablanca Lounge in Brooklyn. So I went to go listen to him spin. It had been a minute since I got to listen to him spin. Because originally, when I first started really following him, he was making these mixes. And I forgot the name of the series of the mixes. It escapes me right now. But the mixes were so fire. I was like, oh, this is hot. God. And that was really when I started getting into house music, listening to Expect stuff. But then he also creates a lot of visuals. He creates a lot of visuals. He be doing like little mini short films. He's so on point. As a matter of fact, do you know Alicia Keys in Common?
Right.
You know the official house mix?
No.
So there's an official house mix that she accepted, and it's Expect's house mix. He mixed it, put it online, and she accepted it as the official house mix for her song In Common.
Oh wow.
We got way too much in common.
Right.
That song, he made a Afro house mix of that, and
Oh,
that was
I
the
didn't
one.
hear it. Wow.
That's the one that she has represented on her Vivo.
Yeah, I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
Definitely gotta check that out.
His music is absolutely amazing.
Expect. Okay.
Yeah, Expect.
Wow.
Beats by Expect is his website. He's a dope house artist, man. But he does everything, man. He does everything. But Afro house is that's his love.
Okay.
That's his love. So yeah, I'll be into my Afro house. I'll be into my jazz. I'll be into a lot of music. I'm into a lot of music. Another album that I picked up last year, that I found online, is called Triumph by Ronald Bruner Jr. So you know who Thundercat is?
No.
Thundercat, the bass player Thundercat.
Nope.
I'm trying to think. You know Erykah Badu's song Money?
Right.
Don't get money. I believe in my heart. You always want to say. So the bass player on that joint, remember how at the end of the track she was like, "Do you have that number to that other bass player?" Oh, listen, let me tell you, the stories be having me rolling. So, but he plays the bass on that track. Not Ronald Bruner, but Thundercat plays the bass on that track. And he plays bass on some other really well-known song, but look him up. Thundercat is the bomb. And matter of fact, Thundercat is like best friends with Flying Lotus. Flying Lotus, Thundercat, Ronald Bruner Jr., Kamasi Washington, they are all a part of the same creative set. And Kamasi Washington, he's also a jazz artist. I want to say his main instrument is saxophone as well. But Ronald Bruner Jr. is Thundercat's younger brother. Right? And he is a drummer. He's a drummer, and he's actually been drumming since he was 2. So they both learned music from their father. And I just, I forgot how I found the album. But, the album is called Triumph. That album is off the chain. So it's like, because one, when you're talking about live music, you're now getting into this space where you can kind of cross genres. Genres don't really exist anymore.
Right.
So because you can create what you want. That's what happens when you actually understand music and you know your craft.
Right.
You can create what you want. It's not necessarily about, I'm trying to make a hip-hop track, I'm trying to make an R&B track, I'm trying to make a funk track, I'm trying to make a rock track. You just make what you want. You make what you want based on how you feel. I paint in the same regard. I'm thinking, okay, well, what's best for the painting? What's best to represent the idea that I'm doing? That's how I choose what style I want to do it in today.
Right.
And the same thing with my poems.
Okay.
I do it, so when how I said I originally wrote rhymes, and the reason I started writing poems was because I didn't want to be restricted by having a rhyme. I didn't want it to have to rhyme. And it was like, nah, but it still sounds good if I put it this way. So I just started writing it that way, and that's what made me start, quote unquote, considering it poetry.
Okay.
I didn't want the restrictions. It was just like, nah, it works this way, so just do it that way. So with Ronald Bruner Jr.'s album Triumph, you got a little bit of everything in there, son. So it's like sometimes, some people may call some of it pop. Some people may call some of it rock. Some people may call some of it punk. Some people may call some of it trap. It goes into everything because he's doing everything.
Right.
It's hot.
Right.
It really is.
So, I know. How did I was looking through your bio, and I was just amazed at everything that you're doing. Seriously, and another thing that
you talking about my bio or my blurb?
Your bio.
Cause my bio long. My blurb is like the one with the 2 little pictures.
Okay, that might be a blurb that you sent me.
The blurb.
Okay, so your blurb is still very interesting, and you'll understand how much information I got out of it.
Good.
I found very useful too.
That's the new joint. because I had just updated it literally a couple days before I sent
because
it to you.
like I'm gonna listen to the listeners who's listening right now. I'm gonna let you know, she's definitely like on her grind, especially as a writer too. A writer, you know, she's got a book out.
Yeah.
The hood is gonna love this. So maybe she can go ahead and tell us a little bit about that book.
So the hood is gonna love this.
It's a collection.
Hey, so the hood is gonna love this is my debut spoken word poetry book. It is a project that I initially started before I went to college.
Okay.
So it was supposed to be released a long time ago.
Okay.
Actually, along with an album too. Like the first half of the book is called the album selections, right? And those were pieces that I was gonna record for an album, but people I was working with, things didn't work out, so I ended up having to just leave everything, and I was just like, nah, all right, we done with that. School started. I'll holler at y'all later. And that's just what it is. You don't want to be carrying that weight anyway. So sometimes it's best to kind of just drop it and move on and do your own thing. Mm-hmm. So it was originally supposed to be the album, and then once I got out of school, I was able to return back to this book process. So as a result, most of those poems are from my early 20s or about my experiences in my early 20s. The second half of the book, I just put everything in chronological order. The first half of the book, I want to say it's about 10 or 12 poems. Mm-hmm. Those were, chosen in a rather specific order because I kind of like to tell a story. I do the same thing with my performances. So if you notice, even with the soundbite that you played earlier from the video you took of me at the International African Arts Festival, that the whole, when you go back and really listen to the whole performance again, each poem transitions into each other. They all have like a relationship into each other. So I'm telling you a story like that. So the first half of the poem of the poetry book does that also.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out and the name. How did I come up with this darn name? I literally was I think I was while I was first, when I was first putting the lineup together, like, what poems am I going to put in the book? Putting it together. And I literally just said that to myself. I said, the hood going to love this. I was like, the hood going to love this. And I was like, oh, that would be a hot book name. And that's how I thought up the name.
That's dope. You saying this is like you just playing around and just genius, boom.
It really just came like that.
That's
and then the sub name, because when I type files into my computer, I tend to put everything in the acronym, in the base letters, just to make it easier and not have to spell something out so long. So the hood is gonna love this as an acronym ends up coming into HIGLT. So it reads like high guilt, which I thought was kind of interesting. I said, So that ends up being the hashtag for the book too, high guilt.
Okay, so definitely follow hashtag high guilt, HIGLT. Mm-hmm. But so I want to ask you, how do you deal? Because we as artists, we have our downward spirals, and then we have our uphill roller coasters. So, there are times when, we do have our highs and do have our lows, but how do you deal with disappointment as an artist?
At first, I kind of want to say that there is no real difference between your highs and your lows.
Why do you say that?
Well, just because winter is a season too. Winter is a season too, and it's also, somewhat necessary. It's always somewhat necessary. Because everything is a learning experience. Everything is a learning experience, and even the good things that you receive, there's always going to be something that can be quote unquote considered negative that comes with it. You know what I mean? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But that applies in situations where it doesn't necessarily seem pretty. We've kind of, as a society, but in particular as Americans, we've really got this perspective. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's been fed to us or if it's a combination of what developed over time. I'm not exactly sure how it really amassed into what it is now. But we've got this perspective that it's like, if everything is not hearts and roses, if everything is not Cinderella in the glass shoe, something's wrong.
Right.
And we talk, and a lot of times when they sit there and talk about the psychological effects of social media and news and things and like that nature, they talk about that, this perceived happiness, the number of likes, and as a result we rate our lives like that. But we're also starting to live our lives through that lens of thinking as well.
Right.
So it's like we look at things, it's like if it's not, if it's not being approved by other people, there's something wrong. So other people's approval and it being a good or bad experience is not the same thing. You could have had an excellent experience and not have known it just because other people didn't click the like button. So it's like, even when you're sitting there talking about the things that were the quote unquote lows, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Life is less about what happens to you and how you choose to deal with it and how you get through it. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I can get through it well, the best way that I really know how, or learn something new to get through it well, and it's like come out on the other side pretty damn good.
Right.
That wasn't that bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? That wasn't that bad. And I guess I'm also speaking so much more so from a personal perspective. I don't feel, it's like I feel some sort of way. Not that I really went through the experience itself, but rather it's like if I knew I could have did better and I didn't, that's when I'm upset. If I knew I could have done better, if I knew that I could have resolved this situation, this issue better than what I did, that's when I'm upset. And I'm upset with myself. Because I know better. That's usually when I'm upset with myself, and it's like, and it is what it is. You got to cut, and then sometimes you go through things and you got different losses. And I guess I'm going back to this life, and you darn sure ask me as an artist when you're talking about things of that nature. So let me try to answer your question a little bit better. I don't answer questions like regular people because my premises is different.
Right.
Yeah,
I noticed that. This is, but it's good because it's like it's sort of therapeutic, and it's like even though it's not the direct answer to the question that it may be, it's like the answer that has came out of you, or the influence of the question of that made that answer come out of you.
Not so much that it's not the direct answer to the question, but it's like if a question has a premise in it that you don't subscribe to, then it doesn't apply.
Okay.
If for instance, I'm gonna give us an easy one that we've already kind of broke down and started to dismantle. Why are black men so violent? Who the hell said we was violent? Or that y'all were violent? It's like, but that's, the response. Because it's like, even as a woman, if you hear like what, you're just hearing, that's, you're calling me violent too. Because it's like, hello, I came from one too. That's half of the makeup, boo. I live with them. I got brothers. You know what I'm saying? If you're a mother and you got sons, it's like, excuse you. So we all kind of going, excuse you. That's a premise. It's based, that question of why are black men so violent? That's based on a premise that we are violent. So if that premise is false, then the question now becomes irrelevant.
Right.
So that's kind of where I think differently. I don't really subscribe to the premise in the first place. So it's like, it doesn't. But to try to kind of get to the answer that I think that you're alluding to, like, how do we deal with would you say, like, disappointment and things?
Yeah,
of that
just
nature.
like, for instance, like you might have had a certain kind of expectation or turnout for like a specific event you might have done. Or
do you
say again? Just
do you? When I say, yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that, but that's the short version of do you and love doing you, right? You don't have to sound or be like somebody else for you to be the bomb. Right. When you get into that space where you're just trying to be the best of who you are and the best at what you do, that's when you start looking awesome and you commit to that joint.
Right.
You got to commit to it though.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to commit. Like, for instance, I'm silly than a mug. Y'all knew that. Y'all could tell from the darn recording earlier. I'm silly than a mug. And that's just, this is who I am. I'm having fun with it. But if I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it as a part of my performance, or just, because I felt the urge or whatever, it's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. You got to commit to it. So when people say do you, really, let's break this down, what it means to do you. It means commit to it. commit to whatever that it is, define what that it is, and do it all the way. So it's like, because I think a lot of times our disappointment comes from, failing at other people's expectations versus us, or we'll have expectations of ourselves not based on our own original thoughts. They'll be based on quote unquote industry standards. They'll be based on things that are actually really empty, like fame. Fame is a very temporary thing. If you put it more so on like being the best of who you are as well, everything else will come.
Okay.
Everything else ends up coming afterwards. So it's like sometimes, we gotta get our motives and intentions right. But then also, it's not just that. You gotta commit to your stuff, but then you also gotta be practical. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, you messed up. Why did you mess up? Straight up. Like, don't get too emotional. Like, if you emotional about it, have an emotion about it. Like, that's sure. But it's like your real question at all times should be, okay, what happened today? Why did it happen? Don't dwindle too long on those first two questions. We end up not getting past them. How could I have had a different outcome? What could I have done differently to receive the outcome that I want?
Right.
Without, me throwing my principles and integrity under the bus. I'm going to add that extra and I'm going to say it twice. What could I have done differently to get the outcome that I want, or something close enough to it, without throwing my integrity and principles under the bus? So self-analysis. Instead of us, dwelling in, you want to get over the disappointment. Okay, literally just get over it.
Right.
Get over it and focus on what you're supposed to be doing next for you to be better, and for you to be the best you.
And how did you develop that mindset? It was like a lot of trial and error through experience, and
that's who I am from birth to present.
Right.
That's always who I've been. I've always been the black sheep out of my siblings, out of most of my family. So I have always had to stand in the truth of who I am from the very beginning, even if nobody understood it, even if no one really got it. And what's funny is that 5 years later, I'll sit there and say or start doing something, and people be looking at me like I'm crazy. And then 5-10 years later, everybody else is doing it.
Why do you think this is a little like off the topic real quick, right? It's just something that popped up. Why do you think that astrology is just so, why does it seem to be so important to people, especially people like within the culture? People want to make a big, thing out of their signs and things of that nature.
Be
Why
specific,
do you feel like,
because not all black people like astrology. I know a lot of people that don't believe in it at all.
For some reason, I know too many that do like astrology.
I know people on both sides of the fence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I know, a brother, he plays African drums. He don't like astrology at all. He don't believe in it.
Right.
If you can't explain to him why this is not real, he don't do it.
Right.
So you can't even have that conversation with him. But that's why, I'm asking you to kind of be a little bit more specific about that.
No, the reason being is because there was some interviews I was looking at before. There was a lot of interviews I was looking at on Black Magic 363 on YouTube. Brother Rich, he did some interviews with the Pill Brothers, and they were talking about the importance of astrology within hip hop, and they brought on Dr. Simon, who's a numerologist, and he also plays around with a little bit of astrology as well.
Brother Simon, King Simon.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking about that, because some people feel like there's some kind of importance to it, because you have to understand the alignment of stars that you was born under. You have to understand that, and you'll come to understand certain characteristic traits that are just embedded within you.
So I put it back to what
can't shake off.
Back to what we were talking about earlier,
right?
About how certain things are tools, and it's all dependent on how you use them.
Right.
Astrology was created just as a tool. It was a tool for us to better help understand ourselves. It is not a final say, though. It's not a final say. It's not going to dictate every variable about how these characteristics may develop, whether you're going to be born with them, or whether they're going to develop, whether they're going to be here your entire lives, or just whether they're going to be a root of the tree or just a branch. You know, sometimes some of the characteristics may just be a season. You never know.
True.
Or maybe it could just be a side of yourself that you pull on from now every now and again. You know, depends on how you do it. It's like, you know, like for instance, a lot of times we think about that. We have an understanding of being able to pull on that side of yourself when it's necessary. We think about that in survival situations. It's like, all right, I got that side of myself. Y'all don't want the crazy side of me to come out. We always talk about that. You hear us say that a lot. You know, you got people that know how to pull it on like it's a switch, turn it on and off like it's a switch when it's time to go in. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing, but that also comes with control.
Right.
That also, but you know, your sign is not necessarily going to determine your control level. Sometimes it may, sometimes it may not. But that's a choice you have to make, and that's something that you have to exercise as well. So it's like it's a guide. It's a guide. It has a lot of information, but it's not an absolute. You still have to do some of your own work.
I agree with you. I think I agree with you to a degree, because I feel like, because I go back, right? I go back and I look at, you know, the information that's present, or what is known right now. And sometimes what you can know, what's in information is information, but what you could see is different. So when I see beautiful structures that have been built, and I hear about, you know, why they're lined up with certain constellations, and why these certain tribes or civilizations or nations had played big important roles.
Stop. Are you talking about astrology or astronomy?
Astrology.
Astrology
Yes.
is about how the planetary
No, astrology is about our signs.
I understand that. Astrology is about how, like, the positions of these planets influence your personality. Astronomy is talking about the positions themselves. That's more leaning into things like when you're talking about structures being built in alignment with the constellations.
Right.
That's why I asked that question. They're related, but they're not the same.
Okay. So yeah, I just find it real interesting, because it's like, Tilts is like, a lot of people, I don't know, I like history, and it's like history, I feel like to this very day does play a big role in certain ways, but I feel like it's still trying to be like squeezed and pushed out of the picture or out of people's thought process, because they may not feel like, you know, history plays an important role in present moment. But it does play an important role, because you have to understand how things have evolved and how things have started to where you have to really understand the evolution of man, so, or woman, or, you know, I'm just, you know what I'm saying. But it's interesting.
Yeah. Because there's no such thing as right now if you don't know the history that came behind it. Right. You can't get to the place that you are now if you haven't been to the places that you've been. Right. So you're not going to understand anything that you're looking at if you don't know how it came to be in the first place. So it will always have relevance.
So how did home decor come about?
Home decor.
So
okay, so let's be specific right now. So he's reading off of a graphic that I created that tells all the different ways that my art can be applied. That graphic with where I'm wearing the orange shirt and the palette is there in the background for the picture.
Yeah, no, I'm not reading off of that.
No. You a liar.
I'm not reading off of that.
Home decor is on it. I don't do home decor per se.
Right.
Home decor, art is home decor. You want a painting to put on your wall, and you just got a new apartment or a new house,
right? And
you want something that matches your couch. That's home decor.
Right. No, I agree with you. No, whatever your interpretation of it, you know, that's your interpretation of it. I was like,
because I know some people see that and they think I'm doing interior design. You know, I've never gotten to that before, actually. You know, but the way you said it as if I do interior design. I don't do interior design. That's not my thing. I paint. So it's like, I know I put that on that graphic that I created, you know, that says book me for, et cetera, and I'm listing, you know, as an artist, under artist, it lists all the different things that my art can be used for. My art can be used for paint and sips. My art can be used for murals. My art can be used for paint, for home decor. My art can be used, you know, for leasing. You can lease it for a freaking film set if you want to, because you maybe need some art in the background.
Right. Okay. So when it comes to for instance, when it comes to people of color, people of color in the space of art, one of the things that we try to focus on is like, developing your own art, and once you develop your own art, building a skill set of entrepreneurs, so you can live off your passion. Now, when it comes to when it comes to the state of art, in terms of like what people are committed to, in terms of like organizations and things like that, do you see more people, like when it comes to their art, being signed to like certain agencies to help get their stuff out, or do you see more of an independent mindset growing and sprouting about right now amongst the culture?
Right. So I can't really speak so much for what I see when it comes to people of culture. I can speak more specifically to people of the African diaspora. Just other people of color that are not a part of the African diaspora necessarily.
Right.
But when it comes to people of the diaspora, and keyword, what do I see?
Right.
What do I see and what I know it exists are two different things. As an artist, you can be signed to a gallery. You can be signed to a gallery and be in a contract with a gallery, or you can be an independent artist. You can also just have a contract with a gallery or an art space. Some people do have agents. Some people just have bookies.
Right.
People that book them in different spaces. It really depends on what it is that you need.
Right.
Me personally, I see more independent folks because I am an independent folk. So as a result, we network in certain spaces because our hustle is a little bit different. Because we sit there, we have to do all parts of the work. Currently seeing if I can help release some of this independency to a degree, or at least be able to delegate some of these responsibilities to somebody else. Because I'm like, I would like to be able to focus on actually painting. I know the other parts of my industry, whatever it is that I don't know, I've kind of gotten to a stage of the game where I can pick it up pretty easily. I know when and where I do and don't need to focus in and zone in, I would like to just have somebody else to be able to handle that. I know how to write contracts and negotiations. I don't necessarily always need to be the one sitting down to do them. They are time consuming. Oh my God, they are time consuming and they burn my eyes out applying for grants. All of it is just time consuming. A lot of it takes a lot of time because you have to make sure that these things are wording right. You're talking about, legally binding documents and things of this nature that refer to your work, making sure you include things about copyrights in there, et cetera, et cetera. There are different, just like even earlier when you said that Jadakiss got signed to Roc Nation, and I said, well, what kind of deal? I said, is it just distribution? Like, what is it?
Right.
You got different types of deals that you can structure when you starting to create a business relationship.
Right.
So knowing the different tiers and knowing what you can include and also what you can exclude.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to take somebody else's full package. You can just, have one or the other.
So how has the social media help you as an artist? Like, has it been a go-to, or do you rely on online or offline in terms of putting yourself out there?
It's a combination. As a visual artist, we have to be very mindful, at least we should be very mindful about how we put our work online.
Right.
It's a great way for us to get seen internationally.
Right.
Off the bat. But that's also about, again, the internet is a tool. Social media is a tool. Hashtags are tools. You have to know how to use these tools effectively. Period. But then also, like, really my word to the wise artists, be mindful about putting your whole painting or something online before it ends up on somebody's t-shirt without your consent. And not only that, for my, because you got a lot of people.
So artists who do things like that, how do they protect themselves in kind of situations?
Personally, I got a watermark.
You paint yourself. So.
I have a watermark.
Right.
I have a watermark, that has my logo and all my social media on it. So before I post anything online, I put that watermark on it and then post it online. So you can see the image, but you're going to see that watermark too. So you couldn't just crop my watermark out, because if you do
it's in a certain place.
Yeah,
that can't be cropped out.
Right.
You have to be very strategic with that watermark.
Right. Because you
Right.
want the work to be seen. You don't want the watermark uglying up your picture.
Right.
But at the same time, you want it in a space where it's like, if they tried to crop this out, it wouldn't be worth it to try to put on a t-shirt or, somebody else's mug, So, yeah.
Right.
That happened last year at the festival. I saw 2 of my friends. I flipped out. 2 people that I know that are like, famous artists, some of their old work.
Right.
And I saw both of their works on t-shirts at IAAF on side of one of somebody's tents. Neither one of them were in New York. One was, in North Carolina, and the other one was in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I called both of them up like, did you give this person permission to put your work on their thing? So I've definitely seen it. It happens all the time.
Right.
So that's something that, for my people listening out there, yeah, y'all, our art lovers, yeah, of course, you want to use this person's picture for your watermark or for your cover. All right, you know what? Give the artist credit that this is their work, or at least say that this is their work, and or really
at
and
them
truly
or tag them.
Right,
come on.
and quite frankly, you are in copyright infringement if you put that artwork on somebody, on your T-shirt or on your cup or on your hat without that artist's permission.
Talk about it.
You're in copyright infringement, and they have the right to sue you.
Talk about it.
So, but also as artists, we got to make sure that we're doing our own. And that was actually Prince's big thing. Remember when Prince took all his music off the internet? He was like, no, but that's because there were no laws to sit there. The digital law was still being written. The digital law is still being written.
Did you know that now? I heard they were going to war over his unpublished work that he had.
Goodness!
I heard he has tons of stuff that he did not even put out.
It's online. A lot of it ends up being on YouTube. So much, and you can tell the difference between what's the unpublished stuff. One, people will mark it as unpublished when they upload it on their stuff, from the leaks that they got. But then also, 2, you can hear it. It is so dirty, and when I say dirty, I'm talking about dirty, because what a clean record sounds like.
Right.
When a record is cleaned up and it sounds good. So that's
because it's so raw.
Yeah, it's so raw.
The audio.
The audio is so raw. So it's
Right.
like the sound quality on some of them sounds like crap.
Damn.
It does.
But it's Prince though.
It's Prince's work. It's
Right.
Prince's work. Some of the stuff that he was doing back in the 80s.
Right.
But it was like, again, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give you a perfect example. Sometimes I'm walking down the street and a song comes to mind or a poem comes to mind. So I'll just take out my phone and do an audio file record and send it to my computer just so that I have it down somewhere. So the same thing. So it's like, who's to say, you do the same thing. He would talk about it. He's talked about it in a couple of interviews where it's like, he'll have an inspiration out of a dream up at 2:00 in the morning, and you get up and you just go, lay it down real quick because you want to do while the thought is in mind. You come back and clean that up later.
Right.
I did that recently, actually. So another thing, I wrote my first 2 short stories earlier this year.
All right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it was crazy. I wrote I was having a random conversation in my head. It was 2 random conversations that I was having in my head, daydream conversations. One was a daydream conversation with my nephew that did not happen in real life. We're going to acknowledge this reality right now. And I was telling him in a story, and I said, but that would be a hot story in real life, though. So I wrote the story down.
Right.
And then the second time, I was having a conversation with my hypothetical future daughter.
Right.
And that conversation was also a dope story. And I was like, that would be an awesome way to explain to a 5-year-old what a period is and where the babies come from, all in one short story. And I wrote it. So I did the rough stuff. I just random wrote everything down. I just found a notebook, wrote all of this stuff down.
Right.
And then after that, the images that I got in my head, I just did just real quick draft sketches just so that I had the image and the placement down and whatnot. And then it's like, I left it there. I haven't gone back to it as of yet.
Right.
For me to really be able to go in, type it, clean it up, and go through all the different versions until I figure out what it is that I want to do for as a published one. But it was like, yeah.
Right.
I wrote my first 2 short stories early as well. But the same thing happens with music. The same thing happens with music. So all of those unpublished works, they rough. Some of them is real rough. Nice music, but some of it is real rough. So yeah.
So
The Bible Ray. I did a painting of Prince recently too.
Yeah, I seen. I'll go ahead and post that on the Sanford Podcast Instagram account for y'all to check that out, and also tag her, and because she's definitely gonna leave her links at the end of this.
Oh, of course, I'm so proud of that painting.
It's a very, very, very beautiful painting.
That is my most recent painting.
It's a very good.
Not my most recent painting. That's my most recent personal painting. I was doing a show with Fantasy and Color. They're like a black owned art company. They do like art parties and things of the nature. And right now they're fundraising for them to get a new space, or for them to get a space.
Right.
So, and they really have like the culture that comes out of there is a lot younger. Like most of that culture is like 35 and under.
Right.
And that was kind of the creator's goal, even though he, for the most part, ends up darn near maxing out of that himself.
Right.
Because he's about 35 or so, 35, 36. But whatever, it doesn't matter. He wanted to have that. He's like, where's the young art crowd? Where's the young black art crowd at? Where we at? Where we hanging out at? So it was like he just created the space for it. So that he did a show, Rabbi Yala. He did a show, Prince versus Michael Jackson. Or Michael Jackson versus Prince. I always say Prince name first because I chose Prince. So right now it's gonna be Prince versus Michael Jackson. Yeah, twerking the seat. So I chose Prince. And I just went on my Prince music binge, and so I'm up 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I did that painting 3 days 1 week, 3 days another week. I think I took a little break in between it, and it was up to 2-4 o'clock in the morning, just not sleeping.
Wow.
I love that. Yo, listen, because I got the vision of this painting. You know what I'm saying? I really got the vision of this painting in my head, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be hot. I had so much fun doing that painting and really push the limits. And it was after waking up to that painting in my room a few times, just looking at it, I said, I like this painting. If I like waking up to this painting, I know somebody else gonna like it. I gotta sell this. So
So what do you have that painting marked at?
Ooh, you gonna have to DM me for them details.
All right, so I was actually looking into the Curl Fest, because I'm like, something that me and my girl might want to go to. I'm like, you know what? If I would go to this Curl Fest, I'm like, maybe we can, because she's into hair. So she's into hair. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe if I go to this Curl Fest, she'll learn more about hair. She can network with people with hair. I go to the Eventbrite, and the thing is sold out. And I seen it was so I was looking into the event. I'm like, I seen they had one last year, and I seen they had one for this year. I'm like, how long is this event, or how big is this event, or
It's
how
a
long has it
street
been
festival.
going on? How long has it been going on though, the Curl Fest?
I'm not sure how long Curl Fest has been going on. I'm not a member of Curl Fest. I'm not, a part of Curly Girl Collective, which are the people that present Curl Fest. I know they are a natural health and beauty expo. I am going to be working with tribal face adornments using Fuji paint to do live tribal portraits at the Curl Fest, and also probably going back and forth between that and also doing tribal face painting at the Curl Fest, and talking and promoting with people. So that I will definitely be there for and doing that.
So there's different vendors, or it's mostly an event for hair?
This is actually my first time going to Curl Fest.
Okay.
This is so it's
Oh, so this is all fresh and new to you.
Yeah, I've never been to Curl Fest before. I think I heard of it for the first time maybe last year. Yeah. I've known about the Talia Wajid Natural Health and Beauty Expo, because Talia Wajid is I want to say it's the oldest Black-owned natural hair company in the country that started in Atlanta. So they've been doing a festival down in Atlanta for 20-something years now. I'm not sure how many years, but the one in New York is probably about 5 years old.
Okay.
For Talia Wajid. And I performed poetry in the Talia Wajid Natural Health and Beauty Expo. I also was vending some art and did some live art at one of their expos. So, and it's been a while since I worked with them again, but, I'll probably end up reaching back. I would love to do the show again. I love the environment, like being in that environment. Cause this, I can speak about this environment now. That environment was so pure. I loved it. Cause it was sitting there cause it had been untainted. A lot of our cultural festivals of all kinds, we are making, what's the word? Not successions, but we're backsliding in a sense, because it's like, I forgot this. There's a word that describes what I'm talking about perfectly. We're making, is it concessions? It might be concessions, but anyway, y'all gonna get the point.
Right.
We're doing it. We're feeling like we gotta include other people instead of being unapologetically black.
Right.
It was like, no, it's popping because this was a space where, for once, we didn't have to marginalize ourselves. So that was one of the things that I loved about that space. It's like, oh my God, I got to have a full black experience in that space. I don't get to do that everywhere. I really don't get to do that everywhere, because some part of it always has to be small or has to have some type of introduction so that somebody else doesn't feel offended or feel left out because they don't get it. So what? That's the point. That's the point of coming to a black hair show and health beauty expo. That's the point of coming to a thing like Harlem Week, which is supposed to be about celebrating black culture. Now all of a sudden you go to the website, they're talking about, and I'm from Harlem.
Right.
So I'm a little touchy about that. It's always been about black culture, Harlem Week. Now all of a sudden we're talking about it's a multicultural experience. For 50 years you did it, 50 or 40? I want to say 40, 40. 40 years you did this, Harlem Week was going on where it was all about black culture, which included the Afro-Latino experience, which is something that really only recently within the last 5 years became a big thing with the rest of the world. But it was like, if you from Harlem, you got Afro-Latinos in there and they know that they black and they're cool with it. So you don't have to say Afro-Latino, because when you say black people stand up, they stand with you. Like, let's keep that real. The ones that know it and that love it. Right. And they've been here. They only recently started, like, the rest of the world is now about to figure out that you got, black people in Mexico.
Right, but see, it's very interesting you said that, because when I heard you, when you was talking about, the African diaspora earlier, it triggered me in the back of my head, because I'm like, I've been looking into there's a lot of interesting information out right now about American Aborigines. And it's talking about, how black people, he was showing that people of color are really actually like from here.
So you have people of the African diaspora that were here prior to colonization. Absolutely. Right. It should not, for some reason, it's still amazing to people to think that Africans had ships. Of course we had seafaring ships. Are you crazy? We've only been on this planet a millennium longer than everybody else.
You actually have, you'd be surprised, you actually have Africans, right? You actually have Africans to this day. They'll look at us and they'll tell us too, they're like, yo, y'all not African. Like, don't let them like, y'all not African. Y'all are actually native to that land. People come like, y'all native to that land. Y'all not African.
So indigenous, no. So if again, we playing a game with semantics. Right. Indigenous people of the world. Right. Indigenous people of the world. So it's like, if I had to break it down, because I read a book on this a long time ago. I read a book on this a long time ago, and I'm being particular about how I go into this subject, because you have a lot of, to this day, African Americans, black people, whatever you want to call yourselves today, that try to run away from the relationship of them being African by saying, oh no, I got Indian in my family. You know what I mean? And then you also got, a group of intellects out there sitting and saying, oh no, we not black people, we Native Americans because we native to this land. That doesn't mean that you're still not biologically related to those people that's on the continent. So stop, you're just the rose that got replanted in another area.
I can see.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like when you're talking about, yes, yes, we had indigenous people that were already here, that were brown with kinky hair. Queen Khalifa, that's where the name California came from in the first place. And then you got pictures of the Aborigine California. They look just like Africans.
Yes.
and they got called
Yes.
Africans or Ethiopians or Negroes. So
Right.
it's like, last time I checked,
And that's because of they lack of knowledge, because they didn't know what was going on. They say, "Oh no, they got to be from Africa." Then they probably I don't know if it was a
well,
if
no,
it was a
because
scenario of
because
that.
you're not. Well, it's not even. And I'm talking about like, okay, because a lot of the drawings that you see were actually their European explorers' drawings and sketches and writings from their journals during that time period.
Right.
So just to kind of be clarify what it is. Is it a lack of knowledge? Yes and no, because you're looking at somebody from, and even though you are looking at things externally, part of it is a lack. You may not know specifically what they call themselves or et cetera, but it doesn't change the fact that it's like, okay, I know I'm looking at elements of the same culture and it looks damn near exactly the same. And when for people that are cultural historians and things like that, and the people that really have done their homework deep, they confirm that, well, a lot of it is the darn same.
Right.
Because we're coming from the same stock. We may not necessarily be calling ourselves Africans if you're an Aboriginal American or Paleo American.
Right.
That's another term. If you look that up, you'll find that too.
Paleo African.
Paleo American.
Oh, Paleo American.
Paleo American. Paleo American.
Paleo American.
Yeah, PALEO. Paleo American, and there's actually like a very small book that kind of talks about the oldest bones that were found in the Western Hemisphere. And when they...
Wasn't it in Peru or Guatemala?
Yeah, somewhere in South America.
Okay. All right. So we about to wrap it up pretty soon, but before we do, can you go ahead and drop a poem on our listeners if you don't mind?
Hold on, let me get some of this water real quick. Because I just had
all I need is one mic.
All right. I'll drop half a poem.
Okay.
And I believe I did this one at the show too.
Okay.
There are many things that made me, and many things that changed me. From silent paintbrushes. Ooh, I done stopped at the second half. I wanted to do the first half. My bad. As soon as I said half, my brain sure enough went to the half mark. There are many things that made me, and many things that changed me. From hair extensions to haircuts. From hearsay about me to me knowing because I'm up front. You're just fronting because you're not smart enough. So you back up that back without asking for his resume or doing an interview deeper in his jeans. Get your microscope. Because my jeans go back to the curve in my continent. It's past. It's present. It's future. It's now. Time to get a pair to fit my little woman. Apple bottom don't make pears that big. But if you go to the bottom of Africa, watch a molehill roll into mountain made of the grains of sand, tarp we can't stand to give Africans credit for. Read title Kemet Middle East. Chain the answers. Womb of a man that I transformed from to save your ass. And you ask me how I know this. I am woman. 3 times removed with Scottish blood diluting my perfect formula to the sound of bagpipes. Piping the Cherokee twice removed from her side so she couldn't fly. Fly into wings of fire, accept not death, I rise. Phoenix from a grain of sand where it all began. There are many things that made me. And many things that changed me. And you can hear the rest of that poem at the Sanford podcast and watch that live video from me at the International African Arts Festival at Commodore Barry Park 2018.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. This is Kanai, and y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening. Oh yeah, please go ahead and drop your links, please.
All right, so you can find me. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RSB Expressions. So RSB stands for Ready.Set.Build Expressions. So RSB Expressions with an S at the end. And on Facebook, you can find me at BeThePoet, BeThePoet.
And again, thank you for tuning in to the Sanford podcast. This is Kanai. Please enjoy the rest of y'all evening.